So typefaces, the one I'm using is really, really pretty basic and conservative. They can get really out there. As long as they're readable, they are useful, right? So by playing with the kerning of each word, by holding down Option and using the arrow keys, we're trying to make them more readable and more engaging as an individual shape. So I think that's about the best I can do in terms of kerning for these letter forms in this typeface. So now what I'm going to do is select it all. Just hit Command-C, just like you would with a word processor. I'm going to lock that layer, make a new layer, use the Type tool again, and paste it in. Center it underneath my last solution, and now I'm going to change the typeface. And I'd like you to find at least 3 that you just to think about. So instead of Digitalt, let me look at my font book. Or my downloads. And the other was Insana Burger and Cocoa whatever. Sure, I install this one. Cocoa Goose. So those are going to be my 3. So this one I will do Cocoa Goose. I'll save it. I think it's because I installed it. I'm going to save my file and then reopen Illustrator. Sometimes you can install them and they'll be immediately recognized, but not the case right now. So use my name, assignment 8, text design. I'll keep it as an AI file, an Adobe Illustrator file, just to the desktop. Keep all the defaults. This will be due a week from today, which is also when presentations start. But we're going to try to get the best solution possible with just black on white text design today, so that we can do color and then add it with our spot illustration onto a background as a poster next class. All right, so now let me open it again in Illustrator. Give Illustrator a chance to reset and acknowledge these new fonts that are installed, new typefaces. So I keep correcting myself because typeface is the name of the design set of letter forms. Fonts are the different effects that can be added to them, like bold or italicized. They're both things you want to play with. But right now we are just dealing with modifying a typeface and trying to get the spacing right. Okay, so now I'm on a new layer. I'm going to select the text with the Type tool. Then I'm going to change the typeface to Cocoa Goose Letterpress. Now the reason I like this is because it has built into it being a letterpress type of design, and I think that's how I search for it on DaFont. They're vector files, but it has this kind of messiness already built into the vectors, which is helpful because my illustration, when it's colored, has this kind of mosaic broken up effect, and it has that grunge texture over it. So this is the advantage of the Cocoa Goose. And then I'm going to do one more. Now, because I copied and pasted it from the one where I already set the kerning, it's bringing that kerning over. But I can adjust that. So actually, I like it in most places, but maybe the T's are a little too far apart here. So I hold down Option and I just squeeze them together a little bit more. Maybe the O and the W are a little far apart. Squeeze them together a little bit more. All right, so those are both very readable. Now I might copy that, Command-C, lock that, make a new text or a new layer, click in my text button, paste it in, center it underneath, use the type tool. And now Burger. So that's regular Burger, and then this is Burger with cheese, and regular Burger looks like that. So I'll go with regular. And that kerning mostly works except for world. And the reason I wanted to show you that is different typefaces will come with different kernings already built in. And they're not always appropriate for the text that you need communicated. Okay, a better world. 3 different solutions. So honestly, I like the texture of this a lot, but I think the shape of this top solution is best. And you got to go with shape. So I'm going to keep all of those layers just as they are there, but I'm going to copy the one I like the most, make yet a new layer with it. Everything else is locked. Now I'm going to put it in place. And because it's centered, I can go from the center, paste it in. And now what do I do? Well, this is a vector, but it won't allow me as a type to edit the individual letter forms. So what I need to do is simply use the selection tool and right-click. And it gives me the option to create outlines. Once I create outlines, it is no longer a typeface that is editable. I can't check for spelling. I can't play with the point size. Now they are vector shapes. So if you have some more complicated text and you're playing with using uppercase, lowercase, if you're really playing with different sizing, do that all while it's still a type tool. But when you're happy with that, turn them into individual vectors on their own layer. That way, I can grab each individual letter, like the A, and I can modify it. So because it was one typeface, it was all one group. So you'll see that they'll all be grouped together. In order to grab an individual letter from a group, you can do it by clicking this, or you can do it by using the lasso tool. And the lasso tool is just a selection tool that lets you grab it. And then I can use the large selection tool and move it, and I can use the large selection tool like a transform box and stretch it and rotate it. And I wish there was a warp tool, but there is not. But there is, of course, the pin tool, and even better, the anchor point tool, and the small selection tool, which allows you to pull anchors. And if it's a well-designed font, and this is, they're not, they don't have a lot of extraneous anchor points to mess with. And then I can do the inside as well. And you can play with the handles and play with the curves. And this is how we customize it. I want to drop that side down. I want it to feel more curved. But I don't want it to feel hand-drawn. I want it to have a boldness of a font. Then I want to play with the inside. Got very exact movements. It's really designed for a mouse more than a tablet. But if I want to, I can use the pencil tool and redraw. But I find in modifying professional kind of vectors like letter forms, it's often better just to work with what you've got. Now, why is the convert tool helpful? Well, if I want to convert this angle into a curve, I need to use it. And then I can drag out a curve from it. If I want to do that here, I can do that. I just want to make sure I drag out the curve in the right way. Because of the curve size, these are a little bit more complicated. I can also use the pencil tool on Ultimate Smooth to redraw those, trying to keep it nice and clean. So it certainly doesn't make Illustrator easier to use, but it just shows you how you can keep things clean, keep them part of your design. And if I don't want to redraw with the pencil tool, I can also use the smooth tool. And that's good for rounding corners too. I think I want that one hard edge. And if I want it to line up, I just need to get rid of this curve. There we go. So again, this is not logo design. Not everything needs to be perfect, though Illustrator really makes you feel like you can make everything perfect with enough detail. But I just modified that font, made it my own. I'm going to play with the corners a little bit. Without too much hassle. And if I want to clean it up even more, I just use the smooth tool. Kind of even it out. It will average out those curves. Now, of course, the first letter is pretty important. So I'm spending quite a bit of time on the A because it will kind of set the expectations for the rest. And if I ever want a straight line and I'm not getting it, you just hit minus and you start deleting anchor points until you get what you want. Simplicity is easier than complexity in design. And it looks better. So that's my A. I can also at any time use the large selection tool, the black arrow, and squeeze it, rotate it, transform it slightly. So you can see where I started at the beginning. Now I have that. No one will confuse those as being the same type solution. So this simply got me started. Same thing here. I'm going to take the B, use the large arrow, large selection tool, place it in. And this is how I like to do it. I don't like how computers set type generally. I like to play with it by hand. But at this point, because I've got the first letter, and that was the trickiest one, I'm not going to modify each letter as I go. I'm going to first take what I've decided on and see if I